As I search through my bag of change here, I've been wanting to do this one for a while. So I'll title this one, When Are You Going to Work on You? We all have gone through things. We all have overcome some things. We all should have learned some things as we age and grow. So, and this may be kind of harsh, and I know because everybody gets to certain places, certain times in their life. I wasn't always where I am, but I will say this: as you age, things shouldn't just be anymore. There was a time when people could say that, well, he's just a this or I'm just a that, because the access to betterment took so much work. And not saying that it doesn't take work now, but it took so much work. Like your grandfather didn't have the internet, and probably didn't have time to go to a library that often. Your grandmother didn't have a computer in the house, and I'm not talking about the new age grandmothers, and I'm not talking about the grandmas and grandpas that's my age or a little bit over me, because we did have computers and phones and everything. But my grandfather will be in his 90s. My grandmother will be 92. They didn't have computers and phone technology when they were our ages, some of our ages. So as we age, you shouldn't be to the point where if you notice something triggers you and you're not working on that or trying to grow from that. You shouldn't be at the age where if your significant other says that something bothers them or they have an issue with something, that you don't try to address it or tweak it. Now, like I said, don't get me wrong. I know some of us have lived a long time being a certain way, and old habits die hard. But if something is not working for the betterment of you, you don't just own that. It's like if I have a trigger, I need to find out what triggers me, why it triggers me, work on it, and then try to either, I don't want to say get rid of it, but yeah, you get rid of it. It's a part of a thing. It's like the goal is to make sure you don't put your finger on the trigger, not to just say, oh, I just got a trigger and that's just it. I'm just going to die with this trigger. It's like you have to have some accountability. We have to be able to grow as human beings, because if you keep just making excuses for things that have happened and occurred and taking ownership of victimhood so much, you're going to look up and you're going to be one of those 60-year-old, 70-year-old people this just who I am. This just, nah, man, nah. We live in a world where people change every day. People grow every day. People have access to that. You walk around with a computer in your pocket every day. If there's something that you're dealing with, you can Google. If you can Google about Walmart, Target, and every other store you may want to shop at, you can Google how to better yourself and how to heal. Healing is the key. Healing is the key. That's what you want. If you had a scar or a scrape or a wound, you wouldn't just say, oh, I'm just going to let it bleed for the rest of my life until I die. No, you would work on fixing it or getting it taken care of so it wouldn't get infected or cause you any other problems. So why is it that eternal things, we just give ourselves excuses, or hardships that we don't went through that we may not have dealt with and got over? Why do we just give ourselves excuses to just hold on and carry those? But when something happens superficial, a scar, a scrape, a wound, we tend to jump Johnny to the spot to fix that and patch that up and Band-Aid and ointments and creams and making sure it doesn't show. There it is, making sure it doesn't show. And that's the thing. Those things that are eternal don't show. So if someone knew that you walked around owning the fact that you suffer from this or suffer from that and you don't do anything to fix it, somebody can hold you accountable. But you need that somebody to be you to hold you accountable. And stop making excuses. Stop making excuses. Take accountability for you. When you gonna get you together? When you gonna get you together? And don't hide behind medications and pills and doctors and, don't get me wrong. I know some people have serious issues and there's serious problems going on in the world. I get that. I get that. But for every excuse you can make, there's a person who has it worse, and there's a person who wish they can have just a little bit of what you're going through, so it'll be easier for them to fight and get out of that hole. You complain about your feet and your legs hurting and your knees hurting. It's somebody who got their legs blown off or woke up with an illness or a disease that just took their legs from them, and they just wish they could have an achy leg. It's someone that says they're anxious about something, and there's some people that say, hey, man, I wish I could just be anxious about something instead of hyperly paranoid and always feeling this way and that way because of something that happened to me as a child that I've been working through since I was like 9 years old. I've met many people through my walks of life, man, and it's like some of the things that people do that are simple to keep themselves together, you never know. You never know. And it's not always running to a doctor and getting a drug and hiding behind that. It's simple things like carrying coloring books. There's grown men and women out here that carry coloring books. There's grown men and women out here who have little tweaks, fidget spinners and things like that, and stress balls and pencil tricks that they do with their hands to keep their mind from being anxious, keep themselves from being paranoid. There's so many ways to combat things other than just sitting in it and making an excuse for it, because it's not helping you and it's definitely not going to help those around you. And you're going to look up, and while the rest of the world is moving, the rest of life is moving, because they may have prayed and taken it to God and said, God, I just don't want to deal with this anymore. I want to be better. I want to heal. Or they've meditated on it, or every day they take a moment out to say, hey, I need to work on not dealing with this or not living with this. You're going to look up and you're going to be that person that no one wants to be around, or that everyone talks about and says, they always say they dealing with this, so we can't invite them over. They always got this going on, so I love them, but you don't want to be that. So take accountability and get you together. Get you together. Fight for your life.